Let's welcome to the studio talkSPORT's wonderful England correspondent, Faye Carruthers. Hello, Faye Carruthers. How are you?
Very well, Andy Goldstein. How are you?
We're good. We're very well. We're very well, thank you. And we've got lots to talk to you about. We should actually make the point quite clear regarding the squad announcement that there was no actual press conference. Is that right? Let me read this quote out. Gareth Southgate, it says, "We recognise the country is still in a period of mourning and my thoughts remain with the royal family. While it's important to explain some of our decisions around selection, we didn't feel it was appropriate to hold a full press conference." And then it goes on to give reasons as to why some players have been picked and why some haven't, which, it's the right thing to do. I totally get that. We've got you in the studio because we want your view. Benty and I don't know if you heard the first 10 minutes, Benty and I were talking about the good stuff, the fact that Ivan Toney's finally been called up. We think he's just a great player. He was at Peterborough, even at Northampton Town, wherever he's been absolutely prolific. No big real surprise that he finally has got the call.
No, definitely not. His form warrants it for sure. Not just this season, but going back the calendar year from January, I think it's 13 goals that he scored. And there's so much amazing stuff that he does on the pitch, which is exactly what Gareth Southgate has said. They say that they've been tracking him for a really long time. Spoke to Thomas Frank, his manager, about him last season, and he highlights Gareth Southgate, all his qualities: technical ability, goal scoring, obviously, build-up play, aerial prowess as well, and gives them a different threat to some of the other options that they've got. And actually, the biggest problem that Gareth Southgate and England have had of late, particularly in those 4 games back in June, is apart from Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling, and it was only Harry Kane on the score sheet in those 4 matches and from the penalty spot, there are no other goal scorers in the team at the moment, and that's a big problem going forward. Somebody like Ivan Toney being given an opportunity is huge, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's in there. And you spoke about goals in the team, and I'm looking at a couple of the people that have been selected, and I want to start with Calvin Phillips, because he hasn't played little to no football this season, but I get it. I'm guessing that's a choice from Gareth because, again, he's never let him down. Fair play, he was brilliant in the Euros, but he's gone to Manchester City, which is a step up from Leeds, but he's just not featuring at all.
No, and it's really difficult. And I think, we spoke about this when Calvin Phillips went to Manchester City in the first place. He's not going to be featuring week in, week out like he was for Leeds, but obviously he's had lots of injuries as well on top of that. Didn't play that much last season in total, but I think I was looking at his numbers, and it's something ridiculous, like less than 10 minutes that he's actually been on the grass for Manchester City in games, and that is going to be something that's potentially problematic in 8 weeks' time when Gareth Southgate's going to be naming his squad for Qatar. And he talked about those players out of form, because I'm really glad you kicked off on Drive with the positives in terms of Ivan Toney, because it's really easy, isn't it, when you get an England squad to immediately go with the negatives and say this player shouldn't be included, etc., etc. And Gareth Southgate, knowing that if we had a press conference, he would have been asked this, basically says, clearly, we've got a number of players like Ben Chilwell, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire and Calvin Phillips not playing a lot of minutes with their club. It's not ideal, but we feel they have been and can be important players for us. It's not a perfect situation, but there's still a lot of football to be played before Qatar. And he's right. Why would you take a brand new squad of players who are, on good form in the Premier League going into a World Cup, who've never actually performed in a tournament for England before? These players have performed in a tournament for England before. It makes sense to me.
We were talking about Ben White earlier on, who's predominantly a centre-half, but has been playing brilliant actually for Arsenal at right back. And then we'll come on to Harry Maguire now, who's had virtually no game time for Man United. And when he has been involved, things tend to go quite badly for him. So we can't really work out, I'm guessing football fans can't really work out, if as an England player you're picked on merit, or you're picked on performances, or you're picked purely because the manager is a fan of yours. So with regards to Harry Maguire, I've said to Benny numerous times, I just reiterated it just before you came in, I'm convinced, and this is not a good or bad thing, but I'm convinced if Harry Maguire doesn't start a Premier League game for Manchester United between now and the first game of the World Cup, he will still start for England in that opening game.
I think you're right, and I had a big argument with Jason Cundy last night on Sports Bar actually about this, because he doesn't think if he doesn't play in the Premier League between now and the World Cup that he shouldn't feature for England. This is twofold, and I spoke to Benty outside about this, because fitness is really key. If he only plays in the Europa League, and we'll find out in 20 minutes time whether or not he's going to be playing in tonight's Europa League game, that's where he's had the majority of his minutes apart from those opening 2 matches of the season for Manchester United. That is going to be a problem, because he's not going to be match fit. However, somebody like Harry Maguire, and I hate using this phrase because it feels like we repeat it a lot, but he hasn't let Gareth Southgate down in an England shirt. And for the last 5 years, he has been a stalwart of that side. And the spine of Gareth Southgate's team has Harry Maguire and John Stones as his preferred centre-back partnership. And actually the stats, and Gareth Southgate has said this on numerous occasions, regardless of form for club, the stats show that that is the best partnership, centre-back partnership that England have.
I'll go so far as to say, sorry, Benny, I'll go so far as to say that even if, and I like Harry Maguire, right, but I'm just, if he starts tonight, if he starts in another Europe and he has a nightmare tonight, he concedes, he's part of a back four that concedes, etc. I don't think there's anything that he can do that will stop him getting that start if he's fit.
Potentially. I mean, he has a different confidence when he plays in an England shirt compared to when he plays in a Manchester United shirt. And I was talking to Charlie Baker and Perry Groves about that earlier on. And he does seem like a completely different player. And I don't know, Benty, obviously, me and Andy haven't played the game, so it's difficult to say.
I think it's because it's slower. I think because international football is slower.
What, for Harry Maguire?
Yeah.
Potentially, but also I think there is because the stats, I get it, it's John Stones and Harry Maguire, but sometimes you have to look at the opposition as well, because international football, I'm not being disrespectful, but a lot of the sides that England play, certainly for qualifying for World Cup and stuff, they're playing likes of San Marinos and do you know what I mean, teams like that where you go, I get it. But I can understand from Gareth's perspective that Harry Maguire's never let him down, I get that. But I just wonder, Faye, when does it get to a point where that runs out? Because as you said there, if he's not playing consecutively until the World Cup, but you've got the likes of John Stones who's playing, or Tomori at AC Milan, or he's going to have to make at some stage maybe a drastic call and think, right, I've got to find someone to partner John Stones, because if he's not playing, and as you said, match fitness is key, then what does Gareth do then? He's kind of stuck.
Well, John Stones isn't going to be playing the opening game anyway because he's suspended.
Yeah, of course,
so he won't play against Italy. You would expect
even more reason you'd think Maguire would start.
Yeah, without a doubt. But also, when you look at the 3 Nations League games, the one that Harry Maguire didn't start was, let me see if he started
Hungary.
the first.
They got beat 4-0.
Exactly. He started the first Hungary game where they got beaten 1-0. The one that he didn't start, when he came on as a late substitute, and there was a massive hoo-ha about that, he wasn't in that. It was Stones and Mark Gay, and it was a really young side. And after that, difficult post-match interview with Gareth Southgate after the booing following that 4-0 defeat at Wolves. And he talked about the lack of experience in and around those young players that he put in. It was a very young starting 11. That's key. Harry Maguire has that experience. Why would you not use him when he has been for such a long time first pick for Gareth Southgate? He trusts him, and he trusts him for a reason. And I absolutely, but believe me, I'm not being an idiot. I'm an England fan. I'm not being an idiot when I'm looking at recent form. And I feel a lot of the time as if Gareth Southgate, those comments are going to bite him on the backside. They have been consistently biting him on the backside when he first came in and said he would pick players on form. But there has to be a balance. And I think this is that balance.
Just ever so quickly, there's 3 England goalkeepers. None of them have got the word Pickford. So I'm going to ask both of you, and I'll say it as well, I'm going to count to 3, and all of you say the surname of the player you think will be number 1. All right? See if it's any of us match, okay?
Well, yeah, but I think that one's going to play one game and one's going to play the other. So how do I do that?
Okay, we'll say if Pickford's injured for the first game of the World Cup, who do you think is the number 1?
Okay.
Or the question, I suppose, is who is the number 2 then, I suppose, okay? Who is second in line? So have you got your name in your head, Faye?
Yeah.
I've got mine, you got yours?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I'll say 1, 2, 3, then we'll say it. 1, 2, 3.
Ramsdale.
Okay, I said Pope.
Yeah,
you both say Ramsdale.
Yeah.
You're not an Arsenal fan as well, are you?
No, I'm not an Arsenal fan. I am most definitely not an Arsenal fan.
Faye, listen, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I know it's always lovely coming to the studio.
Goes too quick, doesn't it?
Always.
Goes too quick. You look lovely. Thank you so much for your time.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.